Howdy. In a previous video, I discussed ways to work with our thoughts by identifying the activating event, the belief that we have about that event, and the emotional consequence that comes from that belief. Again, identifying that the belief is that mitigating factor within that. Now, I left that discussion kind of open-ended about what to do with the beliefs once we identify them. And so in this video, I'm going to focus on some commonly occurring thinking traps and some questions to disrupt our unhelpful thoughts and explore new perspectives. Now, when I refer to thinking traps, what I'm talking about are Ellis's irrational beliefs and Beck's cognitive distortions. I put them under the same umbrella because they're schema or neural pathways or complexes or parts, whatever we want to call them, that we get stuck in. And we need to work with those. And sometimes just being able to identify them and that we're stuck in them gives us enough differentiation to either unblend or kind of unimmerse ourselves in that perspective to give us a sense of ego integrity and agency that we need in order to work with that. And so Ellis's irrational beliefs are tenfold. They include, I've got my cheat sheet here, a demand for approval, so believing that we need others' approval in order to feel of value or worth ourselves. High self-expectations that we need to be good at everything we do, even new things, expecting that we should be good at them right away or we're just going to give up. Blame proneness, that some people are bad. They're just bad. Maybe we're those people too, and they deserve to be punished. A lack of acceptance that it's horrible when things don't go our way. And rather than just accepting that sometimes things don't work out the way that we want. Emotional helplessness, seeing our emotions as being uncontrollable events, that we can't exercise any influence over our feelings. But this entire video is about trying to exercise a certain amount of control over them. Anxious over-concern, where we identify that, gosh, bad things can happen in the world, so let's focus on them and make sure we avoid them. Problem avoidance, believing it's easier to avoid problems than to face them. So almost being in denial of something. Dependency, needing others to protect us or care for us, relying on them. The indelible past, where our past and our experiences shape our present and shape the future, and we just can't escape that, right? We can't predict the future though. And perfectionism, insisting that there's only one right way to do things and we're going to find it and then we're going to do it. And you can see there's a little bit of a narrative to Ellis's irrational beliefs, whereas Beck's cognitive distortions kind of feel more like structures that then are populated or filled with the content of the moment. Like dichotomous thinking. It's either all good or all bad. It's either or rather than both and. Overgeneralization. Holding extreme beliefs on the basis of a single event or a single piece of information. Selective abstraction is forming conclusions based upon judgments of an isolated incident or an isolated detail of an experience. Disqualifying the positive, so ignoring the positives and only focusing on the negatives. Arbitrary inference, where we make conclusions without any supportive evidence. We're just saying, well, this must be true. This is how it is. Magnification and its partner minimization, where we overstate or downplay the importance of particular events. Emotional reasoning, where we use emotions to prove something to be true. Personalization, a tendency to relate external events to oneself unnecessarily. Catastrophizing, imagining that bad things are going to happen, worst case scenarios are inevitable. And then should statements, but these are shoulds and musts and have tos and need tos, and we need to identify them. We're shoulding all over ourselves, we're masturbation. We identify these thoughts, these beliefs, and we work towards a want. And what I mean by that is that we might say, I should eat fruits and vegetables. But do I want to eat fruits and vegetables? Well, maybe, maybe not. And I might be able to point to, well, I want to be physically well and healthy. So therefore, I want to eat fruits and vegetables in order to ensure that I'm physically healthy and well. And so I find my want there. We're always working towards a want. A want is agency. A should is something that we introject from that larger societal discourse. And so we need to be really thoughtful about those shoulds, those have tos, the need tos, the musts. And again, recognizing these thought patterns can give us a chance to challenge them, to work with them. And that's essentially the ABCD model. Activating event, the belief, the consequence, and now we dispute or disrupt this pattern of thinking. And people refer to these as cognitive disputation questions, challenging questions, or even Socratic dialogue questions. And this is because Socrates, the philosopher, the idea was just ask a lot of questions. And if you keep asking questions, you're going to get to something that is true or accurate for you, a true belief. Right? And so like I said with the shoulds, can we get to the wants? What's true for you? What do you actively want? And so I'm going to talk about these questions, maybe using the example of someone forgets my birthday and I feel like they don't care. Right? And so the first question would be, what's the evidence for this conclusion? I'm saying they don't care for me, and my evidence is that they, forgot my birthday. And that's not a lot of evidence to say that someone doesn't care for me. And do I have other evidence? Are there other ways that I feel like they haven't shown up or believe they haven't shown up for me? Or that they haven't acknowledged me? Or have they actively done something to harm me? What's my evidence and what's the standard I have for evidence? Again, noticing that emotional reasoning, I can't just say, well, I feel this way. Is that really evidence? And it might be in certain circumstances when we're working through things that are coming up for us, but it's not really evidence to base a belief about the world upon. Right? So what's the evidence? And it sounds like there's not a lot of evidence here that this person doesn't care because they forgot my birthday. Does it logically follow that if A, then B? Does it logically follow that if they forget my birthday, that they don't care about me? And right there, we can start to see, gosh, no. Like, these go in two different directions. Right? That someone remembering something and someone caring for me are two different things. Right? So it does not logically follow. Where will it get me if I keep believing that people don't care about me instead of that people forget things sometimes? And where it's going to get me is going to be feeling isolated, sad, abandoned, if I keep believing that people don't care instead of believing that, well, sometimes people forget things. And so what are the errors in my thinking about this? Well, the errors in my thinking, I think we've already started to identify, is that I'm conflating someone remembering something with someone caring about me. Those are two different things. And the errors in my thinking is that there's minimal evidence to suggest that they don't care about me other than this one incident, right? So that doesn't make any sense. What's the best or worst that could happen, and is the worst thing that's so bad? Is the worst thing, they forget my birthday, what's the worst thing about them forgetting my birthday? Well, maybe I feel a little lonely, or maybe I'm bored on my birthday. I'm waiting for someone to wish me a happy birthday. I don't know. And is that so bad? Probably not. It's one day. It comes and goes. We're moving on with our lives. We got other things going on. What's happened to others in similar situations? So when other people have maybe had their birthday forgotten, how have they dealt with it? Did they make their own plans then? Did they come up with their own ways to celebrate? Did they bring it up to their friends and talk about it? Well, what did that look like? What's the most realistic concern around someone forgetting my birthday? Is that, well, the most realistic concern might be that I feel sad. And so maybe I can take steps now, before my birthday, before someone forgets, to maybe remind people, to make plans of my own, to identify that most realistic concern and to address that. What are the effects of thinking this way, that people don't care about me? The effects of thinking this way are I'm going to feel sad about stuff. I'm going to feel maybe run down, isolated, things like that. And is that how I want to live my life? Probably not. And so I can choose something different. Maybe I can choose to approach things in a different way, to frame things in a different way. And that goes to that last question, are there alternative perspectives? Which is, that people forget about things sometimes. And it doesn't mean that they don't care. It just means that maybe they got a lot on their plate. They got other things going on, and they need to address those. And this isn't pretty. It doesn't mean that like all of a sudden everything is beautiful and like butterflies and rainbows and we're all feeling good all the time. No, like this is moving from what Freud referred to as misery to common unhappiness. Like we just essentially want to get out of these misery-inducing thought patterns and get into common unhappiness. Like, yeah, it stinks when someone forgets your birthday. It stinks. And is that something that we're able to say, well, that stinks. Yeah, let's move on with our lives. Or is that something that we get mired in that misery? And that's something that we start to work with. And in that working with it, what we're doing, as I mentioned before, is we're starting to get a sense of differentiation from these thought patterns to our sense of self, that ego kind of perspective. And in doing so, we increase our ability to will, the ability to have agency in the world, to make choices, to direct ourselves. And so with that, I encourage you to continue identifying your beliefs, challenging them, and discovering more flexible and adaptive perspectives. Thanks so much.